Around the world, today is a somber day as we mark the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp. And on this Holocaust Remembrance Day, we welcome a guest who has dedicated extensive amounts of time researching what happened in those camps and the stories of those subjected to the horrors of Nazi reign. Dr. Reinharz, is not just an acclaimed scholar and author. She is the daughter of a Holocaust survivor. Her new book, Hiding in Holland, looks at the story of Nazi occupation in Holland through her father's eyes, blending firsthand accounts with extensive background information to tell a complete story of survival and unarmed resistance. Doctor, it is a pleasure to have you this morning on really what is a somber day, and we certainly appreciate you joining us to share your story and your father's story as well.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Describe for us, what was it like, writing a story that was so personal to you and your family, and after, what they went through?
Well, it was everything you could imagine. It was revealing and exciting because my father left hundreds and hundreds of documents in cartons, disintegrating in the basement of the house in which I grew up, and I didn't even know they were there. And as I read them, I understood my father's life so much more than I had from just growing up. Although my father was unusual in terms of Holocaust survivors because he talked about it all the time. We've learned that most Holocaust survivors don't like to talk about it. It's so painful, and it's somewhat even embarrassing to say how humiliated they were. And they also don't want to scare their children. But my father was different. He said, I want you to remember all the people in our family who died, and I want you to remember what happens when democracy and freedom are not valued.
What did you take away from that?
I took away a lot. One thing I took away is what he told me to take away. Because before he died, I asked him, what would you like me to remember about all of this work we did together? And he said that there are good people in the world. That's very important to me, although it sounds maybe trite. In fact, I even saw it on a Hallmark card. What he meant by that is to challenge what Anne Frank said. What she said before she died is, everyone has some good in them. And that is maybe a religious view because we're all created in the image of God. But my father didn't believe that. He said that there are some good people in the world. And according to Jews, the Jewish tradition, it is because there are 36 righteous people in the world at any one time that the world is continuously saved. Without those people, there would be no reason to save it. So that's one thing I took away from it. Another thing I took away is that because of the Anne Frank story, which has become so convoluted and distorted over time, because of that story, people think that the Dutch were good to the Jews because it was Dutch non-Jews who saved Anne Frank for a while with her family and her family's friends. But that's not true. The Dutch people had the worst record of all the Western nations of killing Jews. The percentage of Jews killed in Holland was around 85%. Some say it's a little less, some say it's a little more. But that percentage means genocide because you can't revive a community that has been decimated like that. That number is so high that it is sort of getting close to the numbers of Eastern Europe, which was the place of killing factories. That's what they really were. And another thing that I learned from this is that there are many types of resistance. We all think of resistance, I believe, as blowing up trains, by putting something on the tracks, or finding Nazis in the forest and killing them. That's true. That is a form of resistance, but that's really maybe the smallest form. The biggest form was to use your mind, your brain, your heart to fight back and to retain your dignity. And that's one of the things that my father did. He also joined underground groups that were not armed groups, and he wrote newspapers for them. He joined various political parties while he was in hiding. while he was hiding for 3 years, he joined these parties and he wrote for them to raise people's consciousness. And in a sense, Steve, that's what I was doing. I want to raise people's consciousness, of particularly people in the United States, because believe it or not, according to a Pew National study, Americans don't know anything about the Holocaust. It's incredible. They don't know exactly what happened. They don't know why Jews were killed. They don't know how Nazis got so much power. They don't even know to ask those questions. So that was one of my goals as well.
It's such an important part of history and horrific part of the history that you're right, everybody should understand. And I wish that we had more time to talk more about the book. Obviously, it's going to be a pretty eye-opening read from what your experience was and your family's experience was. How can people get a copy of it?
It's very easy. You get a copy through Amazon, and there are 3 types of purchases you can make. One is in consideration of Holocaust Remembrance Day. The Kindle version is now free for a few days.
Okay.
All you have to do is write "hiding in Holland," and it will come up. The second thing is that you can buy a paperback, which is around $18, and a hardback that's around $30. So it's easy to get. And if people like the book, which so many people have told me they do, they can write a review, and that will help other people get to the book.
As I said, I wish we had more time this morning. It certainly is an important conversation. Thank you for coming on and sharing what your family went through. I appreciate it.
And thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll be right back.
Bye.